Disclaimer. Before we get into it, everything you hear on this show is based on real experience, real deals, real decisions, real outcomes. But it is not advice for your situation. Real estate and investment decisions carry risk. What worked for us may not work for you. Talk to your attorney, your CPA, your financial advisor. Know your numbers before you move. Now let's get into it.
Thanks for joining us again on Building the Builder. Today we are with Cameron Meredith. And so this is a long form series where we are talking to micro developers that are operating and actively in the work. And so we're going to talk about the project that made things real, mistakes that reshaped how they operate, and really just like that friction that he's navigating right now. We want to talk about how the building process has changed, Cameron, and looking at this thought process that every project builds two things. It builds the housing and it builds the human behind it. And so this series is about both. So today we are meeting with Cameron Meredith, who is the founder of ADU West Coast out in Seal Beach, California. And Cameron is a general contractor and he specializes in ADUs. And last year he did more than 25 units and conversion projects. And so that's massive. And so he's working with both investors and homeowners through the entire process. So from feasibility all the way to the turnkey unit. And so his focus is simple. It's to make that path of building an ADU clear and make it so there's less guessing and friction and just more certainty overall. And so that's what we're going to get into today. So thank you, Cameron, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So to start out, the first question is, what was the first project or the project that kind of forced you to start taking yourself more seriously?
Yeah, so just a little background on me. I was never brought up into the construction industry. My dad owned a security company, so in high school, college, I was working part-time with him. So it's not like I grew up, in construction, but so really I just got kind of thrown into it, right? I was in real estate before. I was doing my own flips, and then kind of found my construction team. At the time, I was pretty good at selling stuff. So I ended up selling jobs for custom homes and large remodels, and formed a company where I'd do the sales, and I had a partnership with a contractor that would do stuff. To answer your question, what was that time where you kind of, realized you needed to take yourself a little more seriously, or maybe ran into issues? We had a pretty big job in Long Beach. It was my first multifamily ADU project. It was only a couple ADUs, but for me at the time, it was a big job, right? Multiple units on there. I think it was existing 16 unit property. And what I learned there is, I think what's really important is two things. One, I do think doing a feasibility study is very important. And obviously, at the time, I was kind of new, didn't know as much as I knew now. And luckily, that job did go smooth. We kind of broke even, which is good. You could lose a lot of money in this business, right? And I'm sure a lot of people have. But for me at the time, that was great, right? We were happy we didn't lose any money. But what I realized was I didn't have the right team in place, right? I had a superintendent that was running the job that kind of, made up a little bit more than what he could do. And I think that's my fault for just not doing enough research, not, digging enough into who he was as a person. And again, I'm glad I got out without losing money, because it could have ended up pretty bad. So, number one, I realized I needed to get a really good team. And then the second part of that is, like I said, I think it's really important to know, especially if you're doing ADUs, what are the potential upgrades? What are the potential things that you could run into when doing bigger projects like this? Doing a multifamily, adding new electrical load, sewer load, gas, if you're doing gas, that is could be a potentially pretty big cost, right? So going into it, like I said, luckily we didn't have to do, pretty crazy upgrades or anything like that here. But what I did learn throughout the process is that, hey, look, if there's not enough power here, the owner's responsible for bringing more power in, from Edison or whoever the provider is. So for me, I just really looked and said, hey, number one, this could have gone south really bad because I didn't verify my guy right too well. And by the way, now this was like 10 years ago. Now we're golden. We got great
Yeah.
team, great
Yeah.
guys. But it was a learning moment for me, and it was scary at the time. And running through the job, just going through like, hey, look, if the owner had to bring in more power, that's something I didn't bring up to him, even though it's excluded from our contract. I still think it's very important to be upfront with people because look, they have a loan, they have a timeline, they're expecting to finish these jobs on a certain time within a certain budget. And we just did one in Santa Ana where it cost the owner 60 grand to bring in more power, right? And now I'm more experienced. I told her this would be the case up front, right? But again, it's all about how you approach it and how you plan for it. I'm in another one right now in Costa Mesa doing a feasibility study, and same thing. They're in the process. I verified with Edison, they do have to bring more power in. That means trenching across the street, which gets into public works, which gets into very high costs. So I think
Yeah.
planning and then having the right team is vital. And that's kind of when it got me to shift to going, hey, I need to find new guys. I need to do more investigation before, putting these numbers together.
Yeah. No, man, if I had $1 for every time I stared down a barrel of the problem that I didn't know that I was walking into,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, so that really like shifted your mindset and saying, oh crap, if I do this wrong in the future, like it could cost me money, right? Like that's,
Hmm.
and so then,
100%.
yeah. And so then from that perspective, um, are there any, like, was that project something that you would consider a mistake that shaped the way that you operate now? Or was there another project even still that helped you really dive down um, and develop something that reshaped your operating system?
So I would say this, that got me shifting to thinking, hey, I need a better team, right? And so I went out, found a better team. I think once after that job, we started getting multiple jobs at a time. And as most contractors in the beginning, they're running off spreadsheets, this, that, right? And it started getting to the point where it's like, hey, I'm starting to lose track of stuff. Clients aren't getting the updates they need. Invoices are being sent out late, just like every problem every new contractor has, right? And so I think the amount of jobs we're doing, that's what got me to realize, okay, look, I need to sit down, I need to figure out a software or something where I can manage these jobs. And the number one thing that I was looking for was budgeting and more of the finance situation, because as we need to know where the money's going. And I wasn't doing cost coding before. Again, this was all new to me. And so when we're running multiple jobs, I got Builder Trend, which pretty much manages everything from like invoices, logs, videos, budgeting, purchase orders, and like even my subs. I tell them, I'm like, hey, look, we work with them for a long time, but in the beginning, it's hard getting these guys to adapt to a new system, right? And I just flat out told them, like, hey, I like you guys. I'll work through it with you, but this is how we're going to do it. If you want to work
Yep.
with me, you want to get paid, you're going to go through Builder Trend, you're going to sign the lien release, and then we're going to pay you. And it was, at first a little bit hard to get, them on board because again, these guys are older, most of them are older kind of blue collar guys. I mean, some of these guys don't even text back, so
Right.
it's
Right.
uh it's hard to get them on a new system. But if you just explain, right, that hey, look, this is how we do it. We have multiple jobs. I like working with you. Most of them are pretty cool, and I have no problem helping them out.
Yeah. No. And so it seems like that you, through that process, like as you started getting to those multiple jobs, like one of the things that I find is so much of this is about the story that we tell ourselves, right? So like when a customer takes us on
Hmm.
and they don't get a response back from us, like all sorts of things, there's all sorts of horror stories of people that walk off jobs and things like that.
Yep.
But um, as the operators, sometimes it's easy to bury ourselves in the shell of delusion where we're like, hey, well, what do they expect me to do? Work till midnight? Like, in if your opportunities and your work has outgrown your system, that's what happens. And then the story that we can tell ourselves is that that's just normal and that's their problem, not our problem, right? And in reality, like what you're talking about, getting the right systems and getting your people to adapt to them,
Hmm.
it's the only way, because the truth is the customer, the investor, the partner, whoever it is, I mean, the answer is yes. It is reasonable for you to work till 12 p.m. if that's or a.m. whatever, whichever one's the nighttime one. I always get yeah,
Yeah.
12 a.m. To get them what they are owed. Right? They are owed fair, constant communication, and so if we're messing that up, which at given points in our careers, like that's how it works. We
Hmm.
figure out that we hit the wall of what we can accomplish or what our systems can accomplish when we stop delivering. And then that's when we have to retool. And so,
Yeah.
like, I love that thought process, like, of making that adaptation happen and telling your guys, we love you, we want to work with you, but man, like,
Hmm.
this is the only way that it can work, because it's the only way that we can keep track.
Yep.
um and so what so you adapted that software, um and then, like, is there a new process that exists today within, like, your job management, or like what other things have you adapted to keep on top of, like, for example, that getting back to the client? And so the invoicing, it sounds like we got that with your software and getting your guys on board. What about that communication piece? Like, is there a process that exists today because of those pressures?
Yes, there is. I've created custom templates. So we have, checklists of things to do at every phase of the job. And in Builder Trend, we keep track of the calendar, which, by the way, always changes, right? I mean, when we do design build, some of these jobs are going 15 months. So there's no way
Yep.
that we're going to predict exactly what's going on. So we go in there and we change it. And most of our tasks are tied to that schedule. So, I never miss anything because most of our jobs is the same process, right? For the most case. So when we go in there, I think our processes have been a lot better. And then we also follow a weekly schedule. So, we always tell the clients, hey, look, you can always text us, but, try to remember if you can communicate through Builder Trend because everybody sees it and everything's logged in there. So most of our clients, are well trained in Builder Trend. That's one thing that I do is I show them how to use it. And look, we have older people that don't like technology, and I say, hey, that's fine, no problem. If you want to pay with check, we'll accommodate, not a big deal. I'll help you with your selections because most of the time, we do select it in Builder Trend. Again, everything's in there, it's documented. So we do try to adapt, but I do think one thing that's really helped me out is really kind of defining roles. I think
Mm.
before we're kind of like handling just like putting a fire out here, one person go over here, one person go over here, right? Now that we've grown to a pretty decent company with a bunch of subs we use, I think the system's gotten pretty good to where, hey, our superintendents are on site every day. They're the ones talking to the client directly, right? Obviously, if a client's asking me a personal question or whatever, I'll get back to them. But we always try to have that person handle that part of the job, right? We have our PMs. They handle scheduling for subs, anything we need to do as far as scheduling, as well as ordering material. They handle all that. And so I think splitting up and defining roles and figuring out who's good at what is great. And that's what I did in the last couple years is bring some more guys on W-2 wise, just to make it more efficient and then define more of a role. And what I like is, I always tell my guys, like two of my guys are younger guys, but they love construction. They work really hard. I'm gonna sign off to go help them get their construction license, and I'm gonna tell them, hey, look, I'd love for you to work with me and continue working with me. I can send you side jobs, but hey, if you go do your own thing, no problem. Like no problem. I want you to succeed. I want you to go be your own leader, and if you want to work
Yeah.
for me, great. I'm a team player. I'll try to pay you as best I can because I wanna keep on the guys that are good. You know what I mean?
100%. I love that so much. It's absolutely the way that I think about the world is, we should all have mutually beneficial relationships in our life. And so, like, looking at those people that are project managers for you, that they're getting hours to be able to become a contractor, like, that's massive.
Hmm.
Um, because you're helping them build themselves, but also not putting some undue expectation on them. Like, I love it and hate it when I see this thought process of people, and it's like, well, I taught you everything you know. And it's like, okay, like, and I learned those things on the job, right? Like,
Hmm.
so regardless, like, you paid me for my time and I learned some stuff, and now I'm looking to expand. Somebody else's expansion is it's never against us, right? Like, that's not.
Yep.
And so one of the things that I really like, that Gary Keller said, is that essentially, to have like as much growth as you could ever want, you need your dreams to be as big, or so big that other people's dreams can fit within it, And so the goal is, in growth in a company, um, or the goal can be, like, the growth of the company makes it so that the people that are there with you rowing in the boat, like, they can progress as your company progresses. Um,
Hmm.
and that thought process, I think, is really interesting. Um, and I feel like, in as much as you do that for your guys, the way that they look at and appreciate you is going to be different. You
Hmm.
know, we just had somebody leave our company here recently, um, because she needed to get hours under a certain kind of person, and there were some things that this other company had specialty wise to help her progress in her career.
Hmm.
But we were all super excited for her and grateful to her, also leaving the door very well open, where it's like, hey, we hope that this works out super perfectly for you, and you just go on to do all the things that you could ever want. But if that path leads you back to us, realize that we still love you and want to do things with you in the future. And, like, when we have that kind of attitude, it's much more likely that we get to collaborate in the future. Um,
Hmm.
so I do love that thought process that you have. That's amazing.
Yep. Thank you.
So, so let me ask you this, Cameron. Right now, what, with, as you've been growing, right? Like, we hit these different plateaus and struggle points at whatever size we're at. And so, what operational friction is slowing you right now?
I would say again, we can always improve, right? And that's one thing that I like with the data we collect and have. We can look back and say, hey, we took a long time here. What happened here? We're over budget here. What happened? I think a post meeting and going through your project and figuring out what's going on is super important. One thing in the last few months we're trying to get better at is just getting our clients to get their selections up front. Like even in the design or even in design phase when we're just, submitting our plans, it's like, hey, we know what's going to be here. Let's just go ahead and get
Yeah.
it started.
Yeah.
Because we've had issues, in the way we do our payment breakdowns, we try to do a fair payment breakdown. I don't, number one, it's illegal to take a bunch of money up front as one payment,
Right.
but
Right.
we break it down pretty good. So a lot of times, like we don't have, according to our draws, like if it's a big window order, I try to look through the job and plan for that draw. But sometimes we might not be able to order the windows until we have the draw, right? And depending who the supplier is. I mean, Home Depot, we have a good credit line with, but as you know, sometimes it could be like a 3 month lead time, And so,
Yeah.
again, I think going back and looking at that, like I have one now where they were talking about the payment breakdown, and then I explained the windows, and I said, hey, I'm cool. If you guys want to order the windows and pay for it directly, we'll credit you back for that. But we're going to need a head start because, this is 3 months out and I don't have the funds to pay for it till the draw. So I think
Right.
just looking for stuff like that and then really honing down because it is a lot, right? There's going to be 20 on an average ADU, there's about 25, 26 finished selections. And it
Yep.
can be overwhelming for the owners. And, the way we do it, like I'll help them out, but we're not going to go hold their hand at Home Depot, right? I have samples they can show at my
Right.
office, stuff like that. But, part of our contract is we're not an interior designer, so we're not going to pick it out. It's going to be totally up to them. But I
Right.
think just getting that selections up sooner and then having our superintendents kind of push for that, which is what we're going to do, it'll help us out.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like, because that friction is harmful on both sides, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
it's harmful to the client and the contractor. Like, any of these delays
Yep, exactly.
kick both of your butts.
Yep.
Um, yeah, no, I see that. Like, the bulk of what we've been doing is not in that space. It's very investor focused, and so a lot of our stuff is literal templated
Yep.
materials as well. Um, which, if you were looking at 10 of them next to each other, then that would feel really weird. But since they're all in different areas and different lots, it's fine.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I mean, but I see the friction in that process.
But
And
it's funny you say that because I like, we'll always work with homeowners and there's nothing against homeowners. It's just easier working with investors and our split is probably 50-50,
yeah,
multifamily versus, single family. But yeah, I do find that most multifamily guys or people we work with, they have that stuff ready to go. I mean, because they either have the template of the existing building, the existing units, or they've done it before and it just makes it super easy.
yeah. You and I come from a similar background, like from flipping.
Hmm.
And so with flipping, you get that, like, it makes sense to you. You see what sells, you see what's
Hmm.
doing well in the market, and then you just select it and you do it once or twice and you're moving on with life. And then you change it up every year or two, whatever, as the trends move. Um, so, like, moving into this, we kind of always have adopted that thought process. But it is so much easier to deal with investors from that perspective. Um, they may grind you a little bit more on the dollars and cents,
Hmm.
um, but the ease is a factor. So, yeah, I see that. So let me ask you this. As you look back over the last, especially few years of your career, as you've like really been diving into the ADU specific space, um, how would you say that building projects has changed you as a person?
Yeah, so what I would say I think it's really important no matter what you do, right? I think having passion is a huge thing. And so for me personally, I just think it's something I really love to do. And look, yeah, there's days where, I've had a water line break and, I could go fix it, right? There's stuff that happens. Like no job's perfect. There's always going to be headaches, but I think it's fun and I think adapting and adjusting to that. And again, if I didn't like what I do, I would hate it. And it's funny because my old partner that I had, he got into it and like I think one of our first clients like screamed at him. So he's like, "Hey man, I'm out." And she was like, "Look, it was an unwarranted scream, right? Like I get it when people are upset, but she was a little difficult. But my buddy was just like, "Hey man, this is not for me," and not it was okay, right? It's not for everybody. But I think that for me, I really love it. I like learning every day. And I think that knowing how to build is a skill, especially in today's world,
Yeah.
that's gonna be, pretty valuable in the future. And, with the trades jobs and everything with AI, I mean, these are gonna be some of the few jobs that are gonna be hard to replace, right? I mean, eventually you might see a robot do stucco or siding or whatever, but I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
I think we're a long ways out, right? And one thing I always tell, people out of high school or college, they might not know what they want to do. I mean, I didn't, until I want to say 7 years out of college. But I do think it's like, hey, look, I was never good at school. I always liked, I was always interested in stuff that I like to learn about. And so after college, I went back to trade school to go learn construction. And so I tell people right now, hey, look, if college isn't your thing, no problem. It's expensive. That's okay. But I know guys that go to trade school, like there's a plumber, he's 26 years old. He makes over 300K a year, works with
Yeah.
whoever he wants, kind of turns business down. And hey, that's not for everybody either. Like some people aren't meant to be, entrepreneurs or start their own business, and that's totally fine. But I
Yeah.
just think, I read something the other day and I forgot the exact numbers, so I don't want to quote it, but there's so many tradesmen leaving or retiring in the next 5 to 10 years, and there's only a certain amount replacing them. So there's
Right.
going to be a huge need for plumbers, electricians, GCs, everybody, right? And if you're licensed, I mean, you're going to get a lot of work, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know, and to your comment about the entrepreneurs, like you don't have to be the entrepreneur. Like you can go and work for Cameron.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
he's gonna, put into you. And that thought process is really interesting. And one of the thoughts that I had when you were talking about robots stuccoing and robots drywalling, uh, yeah, I mean, honestly, I know that they already exist. Like, it's a
Mhm.
real thing. The question becomes, at what point does that support infill, right?
Mhm.
And then, what is the human versus robot cost total? Like, so it's an interesting question, but ultimately, like, I don't, I do think that just like every other industry, that AI will have the ability to help those that do,
Mhm.
and that actually, I can go find somebody at Home Depot to hang drywall for me,
Mhm.
right? The question is, do they do a good job? Is it their career? Is it their passion? Is that what they're like specialized at?
Mhm.
And I think that the specialists become like amplified. They have superpowers. And so, because maybe they have a robot helping them do the drywall, but the robot, I don't know. But the point whether you're
Mhm.
making is very well founded, that I think that is one of the workforce gaps that is not being filled right now. And I do think that in the next 2 years to 3 years, we're going to see a massive entrance into that market of people wanting to learn those trades. And the
Mhm.
people that are already out there performing and building those systems, uh, you know, figuring out the process, they're the ones going to be in the position to have massive expansion.
Mhm.
And I love that. Like, I think that that's amazing. So, um, honestly, such a pleasure. I'm very excited to be able to chat with you. We met through a mutual friend that I think you do a lot of work with, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think
and
Michael, you're doing a job with too, right? Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah.
true. Yeah. And so really, like, I both amazing people. And so I'm glad that we were able to sit down and talk, because I know we've been connected on social media for a while,
Mhm.
but I love hearing about other people's stories. And so, um, if anybody that's listening has interest in connecting with you, what is the best place for them to find you? Like, where are you most active?
So I think LinkedIn is good if you're trying to reach me personally. So just look
Cool.
up Cameron Meredith on LinkedIn. And then as
Awesome.
far as reaching out to the company, ADU West Coast, we just have a website called aduwestcoast.com, and then you can fill out the contact form there. But like I said, personally, if you want to reach out, I am pretty decent about getting back to my LinkedIn messages. So if you want to reach out there, that'd be perfect.
Awesome. And then one last like bonus question. Is there anything that you see coming down the pipe, or whether it's in ADU law or whether it's in construction or anything like that that you see that's coming that excites you?
So, you know what? I would say I'm excited to see how more of these modular or prefab structures progress, right? And it's interesting. I like to go to the builder show. I went or 2 years ago. This last year was in Orlando. I didn't go, but I like going to that to see what other new products are coming out.
Yeah.
One cool thing actually that actually I helped my friend make. He kind of made the whole thing, but I helped him generate the idea. He won if you know Cloud AI, he won the Cloud Hackathon for this idea. It was an AI plan check, and it's already
Mm.
live now. He's got Buena Park and Laguna Beach doing pilots with it. But
Oh, cool.
it's pretty cool. It has each city in California, and you can click and drag your PDF into the website, and it'll do an automatic plan check for you. And so on both sides, the designer side or whoever's submitting, you could submit it to do a plan check. It'll show up, what issues there are with the submittal or what's there is to flag. And then on the city side, like I said, Buena Park and Laguna, they're using that on their side to do their corrections. And obviously, it
Mm.
still needs a human just to verify. But I ran a lot of my plans through it, and you'd be pretty shocked to see how accurate it is and how well it is. I would say it's about 96% accurate on most of the stuff. Um,
Well, that's interesting.
so yeah, if you want to check it out, just email me, and then I have an account. Like I said, I helped them out. So if you
Yeah.
have plans you want to run through there, I'll send you an invite, and then you can run
Yeah.
a few plans at no cost. So just let me know.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the team has a software that they're using that's probably not as sophisticated, but prior to submitting. But that I think it's interesting. Jeff Bezos talked a little bit ago, and he's like, I just saw him up on the stage talking at this innovation conference or whatever. And
Hmm.
he's like, I foresee the time that you can take your plans in Miami down to the building department and they can check them for you within 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever he said, something like that. But like
Hmm.
essentially immediately, and then tell you exactly what you got to fix, and then you fix those things and you're done. And I do think that we're headed in that direction.
Yep.
Um, and it's a catch 22, but ultimately, like a lot of the problems that we come up against in our company is inconsistency in plan checkers as
Yep.
well as misinterpretation of law, you
Hundred
know? And
percent
so as we see that, like, yeah, that excites me too. Like anything that becomes more predictable is much more scalable, you know?
for
And so
sure. Well, and the one
anyways, well,
thing
thank you. Oh,
Well, I would
sorry.
say the one thing too that really helps with, for example, just a simple electrical upgrade for an EV charger, right?
Yeah.
Most cities, that's gonna like in Costa Mesa, it takes a couple months, right? That should be a simple day, plan check, good to go. So for stuff like that, it's great. But yeah, next time, just send me whatever plan you have. We'll just test it,
Yeah.
and then I'd love even just your opinion on it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be great. But it was great talking to you, and again, I appreciate you having me. And then where are you in Southern California or are you up north?
Riverside. So
Oh, you're there.
we,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
we have projects up north, but 80% of what we do is Southern California, and probably 80% of that is in the Inland Empire.
Okay, cool.
So
Well, yeah, let me
yeah,
know if you ever do networking events or whatever, vice versa. We'd love to meet up.
awesome. Thank you so much, Cameron. It was a
Sounds
pleasure.
good. Thanks,
All
Jared.
right,
We'll
take
talk
care.
soon. See ya.
Bye.
One last thing before you go. This show covers real estate development, middle housing, and investment strategy. All of it is based on real experience. None of it is personalized advice. Every deal, every market, every capital structure is different. Consult a licensed professional before making any financial or investment decision. Real estate investing involves risk, including loss of capital. We share what we know. You decide what to do with it. See you on next episode.